Welcome to the Vocal Lab podcast with your hosts Shelby Rollins and Jason Catron, bringing you the best from the music industry. Get ready for first-class conversations packed with exclusive techniques and transformative insights, all designed to help you reach your top note. Welcome to today's podcast. How's it going, Shelby? I don't know why I did that. Welcome, guys.
Honestly, the intros, these are the hardest part of the entire
Yeah, it's like intros, outros.
podcast.
It's like start and stops in a plane. You want it to be good, but
right. I mean, you really need the starts and
at least
stops
we're
of
not
the
going
plane
to
to be
die
good.
here.
You really do.
I'm excited to hear my intro.
Let's do it.
Oh, wow.
What do you have planned for me?
Who is speaking to us, Shelby?
Well, Jason, it's our guest for the day.
Who's there?
Can you introduce all of our listeners to our wonderful guest?
No, today we have the amazing, the fantastic, and the most lovely, beautiful Vanessa Campagna.
Hi.
Great friend. Hey, Vanessa, welcome to the podcast.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's always good when you can just text the person and be like, hey, I need you at noon tomorrow, I'll be there. And there's no questions. They just do it. I didn't tell her what we were doing.
You're definitely pimping out your
Vanessa,
friendship right now.
well, for sure. We go back. Vanessa and I met in LA over breakfast at Jones on 3rd.
Yeah.
Fantastic food spot. And here we sit.
How long ago was that?
That was 2015.
Oh, that was a long time ago, yeah. 2015.
15,
I think it was like a
16.
year after I moved to Nashville. So I moved here in 2014. Yeah.
Yes, 15. And then quickly after, invited her to go to Norway with us to do some work in Norway. And then the fun and the hits never stopped. I mean, we could talk for days about Norway. And the thing, in fact, even over the weekend, I sent her this like Instagram reel of these. I wish we could show it. I mean, it's this older guy and this other guy doing the craziest dances. Like, this guy definitely threw a hip out. But, I mean, they're not cool. They're just like...
what he was doing with his hips. It was so interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But the bar looked just like this bar that we used to go to late night outside of Oslo called Lancelot. And Lancelot was always a moment, and it was always full of characters, probably still, well, definitely it still is today. But then there was like one time there was this Yeti. Remember the Yeti?
Oh, yeah.
He was literally like 8 feet tall.
Huge.
And Vanessa's...
I'm only 5 foot.
Yeah. And so this Yeti...
But I was with you. I was with 4 guys.
Yeah.
It was me and 4. It's always me and 4.
Yeah. But this Yeti decides to latch on to her. And at one point, what was the line dance we were doing? And he like threw his hands on top of you and you almost went to the floor.
Yeah, he started like swinging me around. It was aggressive. Wow. Just because I'm so little and he didn't speak English either.
And in fact, at Champagne Bar, which was across the street, there was part of the bar, because it was in the basement, he couldn't go into because he was too tall to fit in the ceiling. This is how tall this dude was.
Where we were, though, he was still like kind of hunched over like this. Like he was like kind of dancing like this.
To the point, we have so many stories of travel laughs and oddities that could be its own
Oh
podcast.
my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on.
On and on and on. As do the accolades that go with Vanessa. For you guys out there,
Tell
please
people.
check out her music. Check out her all her socials, Instagram, everything. But one of the greatest singers on the planet, an incredible writer. Literally, when I say there are a few people that I would call right away that I know could come in and just make a hook happen.
Thanks.
She fits that bill too. So lots of fun stuff going on in your world. Catch us up. Like, you've had a big 24, stepping into 25.
Yeah. I actually spent most of 24
crying.
There was a lot of that.
Oh, wow.
There were some rough points, for sure. But then there were some really high points.
Yeah.
So, and it's always like that. It's peaks and valleys, right? And it's so funny because people will see me out and they'll be like, "You're crushing it right now." And like literally right before I got there, I was like, "Everything sucks. I'm not doing anything." So it's nice to see other people thinking you're doing great. But, a lot of that is social media and all that stuff. But I'm as real as I possibly can be with everybody on all of that stuff. I'm also a very private person, so I keep a lot of stuff to myself too. But yeah, I did cry in 2024, but I laughed and I worked my butt off too. For the 4 years before that, I was on tour with Michael W. Smith, and that was awesome. It was really fun. It was something that was completely unexpected, and we can talk about that later, but like, I never expected to be on tour. When I moved here, I was like, I'm going to be in Nashville, and I'm going to be an artist, and I'm going to be a writer, and that's what I'm going to do.
Because you moved here to do country, correct? That was like your first thought, was like, I'm going to...
Well, my first publishing deal was a country pop development deal and publishing deal. And so I was in that for about 3 years. And at the time, I wasn't living here. I was living back in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, where I'm from. And they would fly me in and out like twice a month or for 2 weeks out of each month to just write songs with a bunch.
Beaver Falls, been there too.
You have been. At the dinner table with my nana. Beaver Falls, it's a special place.
It really is.
No, I love everybody there though. Without all of their support, I would not be here today. So they're amazing. It's always good to go home. But I sang everywhere there. Like in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's like 40 miles. Well, Beaver Falls 40 miles north of Pittsburgh. So all the venues that there were to perform at in Pittsburgh and the surrounding areas, like Ohio, all of that, I did. So I was like, I need to move. I need to...
And you were getting some support from like local radio, things like that
always,
too, right?
Yeah. From the time I was like 12, local radio played me. And I had a morning show. I hosted a morning show.
I knew
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, they actually...
Did you know I had a TV show? Like,
no.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing surprises me.
Yeah, the Jason Catron show.
Oh, no, I was thinking about that video game show you do sometimes.
Oh, yeah, no, but...
That's so cool.
No, when I was like in high school, I did a weekly, like little variety show. We have singers, magicians, different things on.
Did you perform every time?
I did. Every song. I opened every day. It was like...
It's like Sonny and Cher.
It was very Christian based. Yes, and I had a sidekick. Her name was Laura, and her grandmother, Granny, played the piano.
Let's bring it back.
Yeah, well, those are hidden tapes.
Are they anywhere we can find them?
They're somewhere, I think, in a vault, but
we can
it's
scrub
under
the internet.
lock and key.
Yeah.
But no, what I was going to say is I refer to Vanessa and I a lot, especially in coaching sessions and stuff, as quarter kids, because we grew up very similarly. How do you say
Similarly?
That is hard to say.
Similarly.
Similarly.
You all should study with me as a vocal coach. Similarly. Why not say the word? We grew up quite alike. As quarter kids, like, just growing up singing at early age, being young.
What is quarter kids?
You put a quarter in our back and tell us what to do, and we'll sing and dance our heart off.
Okay.
Or like, have you ever seen Ella
Hello,
Enchanted?
my honey.
Have you ever seen Ella Enchanted?
No.
Yes.
You know how like the dancing elves, like when you say dance, sing, and
That's
they
what
just
we
like
did.
start doing that.
Yeah.
That's what I always refer to.
Yeah,
That's,
totally.
Like,
So
totally what I
we
want.
got really good at just like performing, entertaining. Obviously, that helped us become better singers. But Vanessa, the reason it's saying all that, early on, got pulled out of the Cabbage Patch by the one and only
Marvin Hamlish.
Yeah.
And Marvin, for those of you that don't know,
you should know. Google it and listen.
He's like one of the only EGOT winners. So like Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony.
Yeah, and that was early on before, they're starting to hand them out a little easier now. But
yeah, but that
when
was
they were super hard to get, he had one of the greatest composers, arrangers of all time.
So what's funny is when I was 8 when I met him, and I've been performing since I was 5. So it was like Jason said, it was like nothing for me to get up on stage in front of 75,000 people and do a 30-minute set. And I did that thanks to my dad, who's like just like total hustler and was like,
yeah,
my 8-year-old daughter can do 30 minutes before Reba McEntire. And they're like, yeah, right, okay. And he's like, no, for real, she can. Like, give her a shot.
Wow.
And they did. I don't know why, but they did.
Wow.
And ended up getting the attention of Marvin Hamlish through a TV producer at a local news station.
Because Marvin was from Pittsburgh, is that right?
No, he wasn't from Pittsburgh, but he was the principal pops conductor for the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra.
There was a connection.
Yeah, so he was there all the time. And the TV producer was like, you should really meet Marvin Hamlish. Well, the night that I was supposed to meet Marvin, I was opening up for Keith Urban. And so...
No big deal.
My dad was like, well, that's awesome and everything, but she's opening up for Keith Urban, and, he's like, trying to like do the math, like how we can make this happen. They're like, well, meet Marvin after his concert that night. So I opened up for Keith, and then we flew to drove flying to Pittsburgh.
Drove fast.
Yeah. From Burgettstown, which isn't super far, but we drove into Pittsburgh, and we went into Heinz Hall, but it was like this rehearsal room up at like the top. And my dad and my mom and I were just sitting in there like with our little boom box. And it's really amazing to hear Marvin tell the story. He's passed now, so, but we have it on, I had a WQED special, or PBS special, and they interviewed him for it, and he's like, when I met Vanessa, she had her little boom box. I took that thing everywhere.
Oh, that's cool.
And we were sitting up there just waiting for him to finish his show, and he walks, like the door opens, he walks in, and he's like, okay, sing.
Oh my God.
And he sits in the chair and just goes, sing. I was like, okay. My dad presses play, and I start singing a song.
Just put the quarter in.
Yep. That was written for me by a guy named Bob Corbin. Bob Corbin wrote She Rides Wild Horses for Kenny Rogers and a bunch of Oak Ridge Boys hits. He was from Pittsburgh. So
Was this a country song that you sang?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's the reason I was doing country is because it was the cleanest thing at the time. Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera were taking off their clothes at that time, and my dad was like, "Woo, we're gonna go country because it's clean."
Yeah.
So
and you were like 8.
And I was 8.
Right.
Yeah. So I did country music, and I liked it. I mean, it was great. You had all of those, like Leanne Rimes was huge at that time.
She was my first concert.
Leanne Rimes,
She toured
really?
the Blue album.
Who was yours? Do you remember?
Celine.
Oh
Well,
my gosh.
we're gonna get to Celine.
That was your first.
Celine was
We'll
my
get to
first
Celine
concert.
at some point.
That-
I didn't realize
I
that
think
was
we're
your
about to have a full
first
circle.
concert.
That's a full circle moment right there.
Yeah.
Story, but
That's
okay.
crazy cool.
We'll get there.
Back to it.
But yeah, so I start singing this song called Daddy's Little Girl, and I mean, I got 5 words out of my mouth, and he was like, stop. And I was like, oh my God, he hates it. It's awful, he hates it. And he gets on his flip phone and calls, and I didn't know who he was talking to at the time, and he was like, you've got to come back here right now.
It was Barbara Streisand.
Well, I wish. That's also a full circle
Yeah,
moment.
right.
We'll get to that later on too. But he called his wife, and you could hear Terry on the other end going, Marvin, they're gonna give our table away. We just got seated. I'm not coming back there. He's like, you have to come back here. Tell them to wait. They'll hold it. You've got to come back here.
Tell them who I am.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll hold the table.
Exactly. And so she comes back and she goes like, this better be good. And he goes, it's good. Sit. Sing. Start singing again. And I started singing again.
Rewind the tape?
He
and, like,
rewound. We
right.
rewound the tape, pressed play, and I started singing again. And they were both just in tears.
Oh,
And he
wow.
was
Sang
like,
the same song?
Can you sing us the first 5 words? Because I want to have that moment.
yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be the same because I'm
What's it
not
called?
8.
You're not
So,
8.
Yeah.
That's okay.
What's it called?
Daddy's Little Girl.
I've heard
It's
Carlos
on my
sing this
first-
so many times.
It's on my very first album.
It was in Spanish, though.
It's a little softer that way. You don't really know what he's
boy.
singing.
But do you really
Yeah,
want to
give us
sing?
No,
a-
actually, I really do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Baby dolls are scattered on the carpet. He hears her singing, this old man plays 3. He smiles and lays aside the evening paper, picks her up, sets her on his knee. I mean, it's a real tearjerker. It takes you through the whole, like, she's a kid on the ground playing with her dolls. Then she goes on her first date, and he's, like, watching her do that, and then he walks her down the aisle. And it's, like, it's really...
True country
today is-
Heartstopper.
My daughter's birthday today.
Oh,
She's 12. Going on like
happy birthday
17.
to her.
And I have these moments a lot right now. Because we're like very almost teenager vibes. And it's like, oh my gosh, you used to be
I'll send
the
you
little
song.
girl with the dolls
Yep.
and the princess dresses. And we're fully out of it. And yes,
Dating
please
is
send me the
next.
song. No, it's not.
But I will send it to
No.
you. It's really, a lot of people use it for their daddy-daughter dance.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
And,
Totally.
and I think it was probably even cooler back then because it was like an 8-year-old kid singing it.
Aw.
You know?
Yeah.
But I remade the version when I was 14. Mm-hmm. I should just do another
You should
one.
do another version.
Give it
yeah.
I know, because he's passed away since then too.
So there brings up a point that I would like to tap into. You and I don't know if this is true of you or not. Probably not as much. Vanessa and I definitely grew up on like all the greats before us. Not that you didn't, but like we grew up singing that stuff, right? Like, I mean, that was our thing, and still is
The
at some
greats
level.
before it. You mean like just
Like the
Well, like,
legends of like the
Connie
old legends.
Francis that's what
Yeah,
I
like
listened
I
to
grew
as a
up
kid.
actually-
Connie Francis or Tony, you know.
I sang a lot of big band jazz,
Okay.
so I
See, I
sing a
didn't-
lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, but now I forgot my dang question.
I don't know.
What was my point?
You usually can't make
the
your
point was this, or the question was this. Having grown up, because I've been having to deal with this in my own way. A lot of people who have supported you, a lot of people who have been there for you, be it through a connection, writing a song, maybe funding a project, booking you for shows. So there's those people who've been an integral part of who you are today. Not only the legends that you were singing, but also those who helped you get to where you are, like literally, are passing or have gone. Like that's been a hard thing for me to reconcile in my own artistic endeavors and ways, because it'll even be like, I'll think like, oh, I should do this. I need to call. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't.
They're all kind of, they are all kind
It was,
of passing.
yeah. And it was, I think one of the reasons I asked that is maybe because having started early and being surrounded by a lot of older artists at
Yeah.
that time, how do you reconcile that in the identity of who you are today?
I think I mean, just by keeping, like, I keep on doing the things that I was taught by them. And I'm just like, you know, these people were huge parts of my life. Whether I've met them, like, you know, whether they were like artists that I hadn't met, but just I loved their music, or like Marvin, like another was Walt Maddox. Walt Maddox was one of the original, well, he created the Marcells, and he did Blue Moon, like all those songs.
Wow.
And he was from Pittsburgh, and he's the one that gave Christina Aguilera her start. And so I met him at the same time I met Marvin. And Walt is still here with us, but he's not doing so well. And so, like, even there was another man by the name of Mike Hepler who ran the Boys and Girls Club of America, but he, like, gave me opportunities. Like, he's the one that had me sing at the Dollar Bank Jamboree, which was the 75,000 people show when I was 8. Like,
Yeah.
all of these people, I just take what they have taught me through the years, and I just implement that into what I do. And even like Walt taught me stage presence. Like he was always like, you can be the greatest singer in the world, but if you do not have a presence, if you do not connect with your audience, you have nothing. And he was so right about that, because I used to just stand there and, like, you know, sing, and he's like, you've got to touch the person's leg in front of you, you got to look at them in the eyes, you know. He really taught me how to do that.
Yeah.
And then everyone else just, I mean, Marvin gave me my love for classical music, and he also gave me a lot of courage and a lot of confidence, because I grew up singing, but I didn't grow up knowing how to read music or anything like that. I tried. I took piano lessons, and I can play the piano and I can play the guitar, but like it's all by ear.
Yeah.
So like when I had my when I was doing piano lessons, I was like deep into it, and I was practicing at home, and I was playing what was over here, but I was looking over here, and my mom was like, something is off. And she took me to my piano lesson, and she was like, can I ask you a question? Does Vanessa ask you to play the song for her before she leaves?
Wow.
And, you know, she's like, oh yeah, she asked me to do that every single time. Every single time before she leaves, she asked me to play the song for her. And I memorized it when she played it, so that I knew how to play it, but I was never actually reading the notes.
Yeah.
So
What a skill.
I'm really bad at math, though. Like, numbers, not my thing at all. Awful. So it makes sense to me that I can't do, like, the notes and all of that stuff. I'm just not good at it. But when I ended up doing stuff with the orchestras, it's really all that. Like, you have to know bars and you have to know when to come in and all of that stuff. And it was my very first time, my very first rehearsal with the orchestra and Marvin. And they started it up, and I came in. Well, they started in a weird place because they had already stopped it, and then they were restarting it. But I didn't come in the right spot because it was my first time. I got a little nervous or whatever.
And you were 8, right?
Yeah, and I was just going by what I had learned, and so we had to stop it. Marvin had to stop. You just hear the whole orchestra go, and you just saw them all get frustrated. Like, all of the musicians, you could just see them like huffing and puffing and turning their noses up. And Marvin got so mad. He was standing up on his conductor's, what is that? His like
stand.
Yeah, his stand.
There's a word for it.
Yeah, I almost said pulpit, but it's not pulpit.
No.
It's
Is
like,
it not a stand?
I can never remember what this is. But it is like it is
a stand. Yeah. But
So he was standing up there and he had his microphone and he slammed it down, and it made this huge echo in the auditorium in Heinz Hall. And he steps off and he comes down next to me and he looks at everyone, and then he looks at me and he goes, "Do not let anyone ever make you feel inferior."
Nice.
He was like, "You have more talent than any of these people put together because you can't read what's on that page." He's like, "If you take that page away from them, they cannot create anything.
Wow.
Can only read what's there."
whoa.
And I was like,
What did they do?
Wow.
Did you notice?
I mean, everyone just like straightened up,
Yeah.
did their thing. And from that moment on, I had complete respect from every single one of those people. Even to this day when I go back there, and they're all amazing, and I'm sure they can play,
Yeah.
things that are not on the page. But it was a point that he was making, and even if it was
Yeah,
just to
sure.
make me feel better, like, that's from a guy that wrote, Through the Eyes of Love. He composed that song for Ice Castle, which at the time was the biggest thing for me because that was my favorite movie. And so when I met him, I didn't know who he was, but that's how my mom, she was like, he's the one that wrote your favorite song.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, like, to have somebody like that instill that in me as a kid and believe in me from such a young age, I'm like, okay, I have something. I just have to expand on this. So I just take what everyone, the little bits that everyone gave me, and I just put that into everything that I do today. And
what a way to honor them.
yeah,
It's really
for
that.
sure.
I mean, that's what people want ultimately in their legacy that they leave,
yeah,
right? Is that their work goes past their lives.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think maybe let people understand too. One thing I admire about you as well, Vanessa, is that you are another one of those quote unquote independent artists who has made a very successful career out of
Thank you.
what you do, and that in of itself is probably one of the hardest things to do.
It's tough to stick with it. I mean, I've
It's-
talked to so many people that are like, my sister was in music and she was doing really good, but then she gave it up because,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not tough, you will not last this
last.
business.
Yeah.
And if you are somebody that takes the first no that you get, you will not last in this
Right.
business. Because the truth is, nobody knows what they really want. Like, no one in this business knows what they're looking
No
for.
one knows what's
Yeah.
what or what's
They
next.
don't know it until they see it.
It's all
and
a
until
roll of
there's
the dice.
proof of concept. It's
Right.
like,
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's copycats.
right,
Then they're waiting for the next thing.
right. So I'm just like, I've got to be authentically me, and whoever sees that and likes it and believes in me for me, then that's my team. And that's why it's been, I mean, I'm so grateful that I had that publishing deal when I was younger, because that really jump-started my entire career
Yeah.
here in Nashville. Without that and all of those people that believed in me, I should have never been in rooms with, number one songwriters
Me and
at
Shelby.
the time. Or you guys. No, for real. But that's why I'm here. Like, through all of that, that's how I know you guys.
Yeah,
And so-
totally.
so
Do you
can
think
you-
that's the... Sorry.
No.
Do you think that's...
Go ahead.
We just start like slapping each other. Do you think...
My turn.
Do you think that... And of course it's individual, but as a general rule, do you think that a publishing deal?
Can we have a moment
Oh
for
my
Vanessa's
gosh, what just
straw,
happened?
though?
Oh yeah.
I mean, look at that. Who's
Bigger than she
drinking
is.
out of a straw like that?
Well, I
in their
didn't.
coffee mug?
I didn't realize we were gonna put it in this, so the thing I had it didn't fit the straw, but
I think it's great though. I like
it's
it.
for my lipstick. Everyone always makes fun of me, even on tour.
Yeah,
like,
she always has these big straws.
when I was on tour, the guys that like our stage crew, every night they'd put a straw in my water for me, and they're like, "Can you tell us why you do that?" Like we think it's great, but we're just curious. Like it's just because of my lipstick. And
It makes it not come off.
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah. See. Versus, see, look at my mug. It's got it all over.
I wish I'd figured this out years ago. Something.
Like a water
Wasting all
bottle,
my
and then I end up
lipstick.
when I actually drink like out of a water bottle, it looks super awkward.
Pair of chaps in it. You know that movie? Does anyone know that movie?
What'd you say? I missed that.
It was Waiting
Remark.
for Guffman. Throw.
What were you? You were about to ask.
I
a
was going
question.
to ask, do you think, again, it's individual, overall it's an individual reality, but would you say that if an artist out there was looking for one thing that they needed more than anything, manager, record label, publisher, agent, would you say publisher is number one on the list of what they should look for? And again, I know it's individual, but I'm talking as a general rule. Do you think that would be at the top of the food list?
Yeah, probably.
I think I would. What would you say?
I guess it kind of depends on if that person's a writer or not.
Well,
But-
yeah, I mean, that's why I said it's individual, but
Yeah.
First,
in
they
a
need
general
the songs.
sense.
Like they need a song to get anybody interested.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people start with a manager, but
Yeah, see, when I would talk to people about that, it's like the chicken or the egg. Like,
Sure.
which, it's like, what, do you have anything to manage right now? No.
Right.
So, what do you
Yeah.
need a manager for? But if you have all of the things, like if you have the songs, you're branded, you know what you want, and you just need somebody that believes in you that can, like, connect you to people, then a manager would be awesome. Publishers are really good for that, too. I mean, my publishers
Today,
are the
it's
one
kind
that,
of like...
they're
there's
the
a-
ones that introduced me to everybody that I know and work with now. So
some
Yeah.
publishers function like a label too.
Well, sure. Today, I think there's a lot of like cross-pollination. It used to be really segmented. A lot of people just have big agents that kind of have their hand in everything.
yeah.
You know, so
But it takes a lot to get to that big agent.
it sure does.
Like you need some substantial stuff before somebody like WME or
right.
like
yeah.
those people are looking at you. But
For sure.
I think also like producers can really help get artists signed and introduce them to people as well. Because if the producer is working with a label, or obviously they probably do because they produce other artists, so they have really great connections with all those labels, so they can always be like, this is my new artist, this is who I'm working with,
Yeah.
and they can make that intro. So
Yeah.
And I think that was the point of me asking the question, is just to clarify to the audience, like, it's really what you said. What you need most of all is develop your talent at some level, have a great art, and connect.
Yeah.
And see what that is for you. It could be a publisher, it could be a manager, it could be just a random friend who's
a go-getter.
Go-getter, right?
Yeah.
And that's happened to
A lot of managers
artists that we
start
know.
like that,
yeah,
to be honest.
for sure.
Like some of them went to school for some of that. You know, a handful of them, some big artist managers today in Nashville went to Belmont and studied some of that stuff. I can name a few off the top of my head, but a lot of them started just by like being kind of like good wheeler dealers. They're just intro makers in life in general. And then just kind of are like, I'll manage you. And they were nobody when they started. And then all of a sudden, when the artist started getting successful, then that manager now was like, hey, I'm a manager. I'm going to manage another artist.
I've got a
I've seen that
client
happen
right
several
now
times.
who's 16, brother's 18. He's managing one of a friend he connected to, and is popping off.
Yeah.
And at 18, he's already managing this guy. It's like, he's not even out of high
interesting.
school yet.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I think if you have
Isn't
like
that
a
crazy?
little hustler mentality and you're like
Yeah.
a go-getter and you're not afraid
Yeah.
of no, and you just like sure, I'll knock on that door and
Yeah, exactly.
see what
Because that's
happens.
really
Like,
the main skill involved is
Yeah.
like, are you willing to go and knock on some doors that other people are a little too scared to
is.
do?
It's that don't
You're
give
doing
up
it
in
on
the
behalf
hustle.
of somebody else. And yeah.
I've seen several people post at the end of 24 and into 25. Would love both your takes on this. Post on Instagram that 2025, the hustle is dead. This is the year of being at peace and in tune. And I push back on that real hard.
God bless whoever is
Well,
saying
I'm thinking
that.
you got
If
you got a
can do
steady
that-
check.
Yeah, but
or
I
a
think that's
trust
people
fund.
who are burned out.
If you can afford peace, awesome.
I think even if I had but even if, that's a good quote, even if I could afford peace, I would chill. You all know that, and really well. But I would still have to like hustle a bit. It's just in my DNA.
I can't not.
I like to work, right?
Me too.
And so like I want to be out there doing things. However, I did at the end of we
like to
had
work
conversations
it.
about this.
I mean, I'm serious. I don't like to like work. You know, I don't like to like hammer nails or anything like that. I like to like work a room. I like to like work
You're
it.
hilarious.
We didn't think you were a carpenter.
Okay. No, that I did not.
What
That's
episode did
not
someone
what
touch
comes
my
to
hands?
mind. Do you remember the time?
I was saying,
Listen.
feel my hands.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they're
There's
very
some-
soft.
he's like, these aren't hands that work.
No, do you remember the time when we were in
Heather.
California and you had to?
What I have to do?
We went to the car dealership. It was when you had your BMW. We went to the car.
Oh, when you were down in Orange
It was
County.
BMW, right?
Yeah.
Audi? I
No, I had a
remember Audi.
BMW. I did have an
We
Audi.
went to the BMW dealership and the
BMW, Audi,
Tesla.
We won't talk about the Bentley.
Oh yeah, because there's nothing to talk about.
Won't yet.
Carry on.
no.
What happened to it? We had to go to the dealership.
We had
in
to go to
middle
the
of it.
dealership. I don't know what was wrong with it, but like instead of the guys, like the mechanics doing it, they brought that stuff out.
Oh, yes.
to you.
Well, they were closed or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and
it was
Like
after
you needed
hours.
to fix your own car.
he
Here you
needed
go.
something changed and a fluid put in.
Yeah.
And they literally were like, well, we're closing, but here you go. And they brought this stuff out to him. They're like, all you have to do is open that and just.
You
put
must
it
have
in
looked
there.
extra capable that day.
It was one of the funniest experiences. I mean, I videotaped the whole thing because
good.
I
We
was.
just looked at each
There's
other
like
like-
Jason's like. I'm like, I hope you don't have to pay for this. He's like, there's no manual labor except us doing it. I'm like, starting the car as he's pouring this stuff. Do you remember
Did you
that?
break?
do,
Did you
and I-
break your car after that?
No, and it wasn't. I don't remember.
It
what
wasn't
the issue-
something super serious, but it was a
No.
thing that
It was
happened.
like maybe coolant or something that it needed.
Well, I mean,
don't
you
know.
must have coolant. That is
Yeah.
a real thing.
And we had to drive back to LA. I had totally forgotten that story.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was on our way back from Laguna.
Yes.
We went to Laguna Beach.
Yeah.
Because I had never been there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing.
Well, so I've seen you do it.
Yeah,
I've seen you
I'm
do
capable.
manual labor.
Manual
It is-
labor.
It is possible.
But to the hustle point.
To go back to your point,
I'm down for a hustle.
I do think that there is work-life balance is extremely important. And so I never had that before. I have it now, especially within the last year. But before, I was like burning. And I would get really sick at the end of every single year. Like I would either have stomach ulcers or I'd get the flu or I
That's
would just...
a lot of artists.
Yeah, I mean...
Super common.
Because a lot of us are also wearing
Especially touring
all
artists.
of the hats. So it's like we're our own manager, we're our own song plugger, we're our own, social
Yeah.
media person. Like we have to do it all. If you can't afford a manager or if you don't have a whole team.
Yeah.
And so even writing songs though, it's like it's a full-time job and I love it. It inspires me and it fulfills me to perform and write songs. But I mean, I was just burning it so badly. And yeah, I set up my next year really beautifully. Like all of the things I did that in that year came to fruition in the next year. But I would have these massive just crashes. And I haven't, thank God, I haven't had that this year because I actually took time. And what I learned through that was it doesn't mean like taking just a few days or taking a minute or even to go on like a short vacation. It's not bad. you're not really missing out on anything. You're actually allowing things to come to you in that time of
That's a really
space.
good point.
And I had to learn that, but yeah, it's because I was filling my schedule with like unnecessary things, like 3 sessions a day, and I wasn't leaving any time for anything else to come to me.
Right.
And so when I finally let up on that a little bit, it was really, really wonderful and very beneficial.
Yeah.
It just mentally and even work-wise, I had more opportunities that came to me.
Totally. I think that's a beautiful point.
Yeah,
and I think
it's really beautiful.
What you were saying, the 2025 is the year, no more hustle, hustle's dead. To me, that sounds like it's coming from somebody who didn't have a good work-life balance and who didn't know how to rest and hustled too hard, burned out, and now the pendulum is swinging as if all hustling is bad, only resting is good. But there are seasons of this, right? There's seasons of,
For sure.
like Ecclesiastes tells us.
Yeah.
There's a season of work, a season of rest.
I think it's
And
easy
it's-
for
you can do
someone
both.
to do that or think that if they don't have their own business,
Yeah.
right? Or if you just work for someone else and get a check, I mean,
Totally.
you can put the brakes on a little more. And it's not everyone. I've never had that kind of job, so I can't say for sure. But like, you can clock in, clock out a lot of people.
You've
so
never had like a clock in, clock out kind of job?
yeah, I mean, I had a couple, but like a part-time job at a bank in college, part-time job processing those pap smears. Remember when I did that?
What?
Wait, you all didn't know I
No.
did that?
But you were full of surprises. Every
There-
episode,
What a
I learned
random-
something more about you. I've known you for like 15 years.
About 6 months, I processed pap smears. Where's the table, ladies?
Is this going to be the social media hook clip that we use?
Wait a minute.
You didn't know
I
that?
have so many
Did you just say,
questions.
where's the table, ladies? Vanessa and I are about to hightail it out of
Get
here.
my gum out on that
Oh
one.
like-
my lord.
I almost choked on my
Podcast goes.
gum.
Yeah, no, I did that, and then I knew I didn't want to do that forever, and then
How
what?
did you get
through
into
a temp
that?
agency,
Oh, they thought you're qualified.
and then it was so
You probably saw a
random,
lot of stuff.
so random. Like, I mean, table chair legs. Like, you can't even think of things that you.
What table did
yeah,
you like?
yes,
Like,
I
we're not
can.
gonna go into this.
I'm a
What?
lady.
We're not gonna go into this. So
Wait
it
a
was
minute.
not long after
Okay.
that
We'll
It's
talk
one-
my
about it
fault.
after.
one of my-
I asked.
one of
I
my-
have a lot
asked.
of
Have you ever
questions
had
after
like a
this.
regular job? And this is what we got.
Here's my thing. Going back to what we were talking
you got
about.
pap smears.
No, not that.
Your health and wellness this year.
Nope, not that. Whoever said what you said, like that quote of like 2025 is the year of.
Oh yeah. Well, I saw it on Instagram. I've
hustle
seen
is
several
dead or
people
whatever.
post it.
I would love
Not
to
the
check
one
in with them at the end of the year and ask how well that worked out for them.
Yeah, same.
Because
Yeah.
like I'm just all the creatives I know, I don't think they could sit still for that.
Well, they may not have even been a creative. I don't know. I mean, I've seen like multiple posts over the that little interchange in 24, 25.
But even people who are not creatives in the like art sense, but are often still creative and they create things, but are in any other industry in life, are typically like my husband's like this. He can't not work and create even in his realm, which is not music or the arts at all, really. But it's in people, most people, often, to actually work and do things. And sometimes that means you're creating in your home, like you're a parent and this is what you're doing. That doesn't mean
even redecorating like is creative or just things like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, we were not meant to live like we do today by origin. We live today based upon technology and inventions and the way we've evolved, and just as life has adapted and
Culturally, we've created lives we feel like we have to escape from.
Well,
true.
especially in America.
Yeah,
I feel like.
especially in America.
Because you go to all these other countries and they're clocked out at 5. They're done.
Yeah,
Like,
or
they're
there's
not
like a
doing anything
2-hour
else.
siesta in the middle of the day, and it's like...
Or the
like,
Italians.
oh.
What doesn't happen today, we can do tomorrow.
and it doesn't happen tomorrow either.
No, like which is beautiful in itself, but like
Sure.
we are so almost, I mean, definitely to the point of being unhealthy, where we have to work to survive here.
Yeah,
And so
for sure.
I think that there's got to be a balance somewhere. You've got to find things that also make you feel good outside of working as well.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think we're meant to hustle. We're meant to forage. We're meant to find. We're meant
Cultivate
to
the
gather.
land.
All that stuff,
Yeah.
Even to that point, though, we perverted the overdoing of the work. And so, yeah, it does go
Glorify
back to this.
the work.
Yeah, sure. And
Yeah.
and again, in America, we want things. You
Yeah.
know?
For sure.
So we work harder to get those things. There's a lot to it, but it's really cool to hear you say that this year, as you've had a big year, or last year, that you did find more of that life-work balance and healthiness in the midst of still pursuing your goals and your dreams and your music. And I know last year, too, was a big year for you because it might have been the year before, you started to three things. When you started to like move into a new realm for you, which was the more DJ and EDM culture, being featured artist and writer, which really started to elevate some things in your career. That had to come out of nowhere.
It did. If I told you the story about that too, you'd be like, wow.
Yeah.
It did come out of literally nowhere.
Wow.
And then in addition to that, probably one of the highlights of your career so far is having written a song that was in the Celine Dion movie.
Amazing.
It was in the Celine doc. I co-wrote a song with Josh Brownlee and Wyn Starks called Who I Am. And it was the first song that I ever wrote with Wyn and Josh. And so our friend Joel set us up on the session together. And
did you have like that as your goal, your target for that write? Were you like, we're writing for this purpose?
no, we had no idea. I mean, Wyn was an artist that was newly signed to Curb Records. And at the time he was still working like a job. He was working nights at like a hotel or something like that, and maybe another job too. He went
He was not examining
he's been on the
pap smears,
podcast.
you mean?
He was not, but Wyn's been on the podcast, remember?
Huh?
Was he?
No.
We were filming last year and the doorbell rang. And we're in the middle of a podcast. Carlos goes downstairs because Wyn was coming for a vocal session.
Oh.
And so
Wyn and I have never met.
he and Wyn had never met. And so, Carlos opens the door and we're still doing the podcast and I'm kind of hearing little things. He's like, yes, Jason. And talking, Carlos comes back upstairs. We finished the podcast. After he's like, yeah, it was some guy looking for a Jason Jenkins. And that didn't even hit me at the time. But Jason Jenkins, who we've had on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Jason works at...
Yeah, he's Wyn's label guy.
Yeah.
Wyn was just being Wyn.
How did he get to this house?
We came here for a vocal session, but in his mind, he didn't
said-
know Carlos. And he
Was this at your old place?
No, it was here.
It was here?
Just a few months ago, he asked for Jason Jenkins. Wow, this is a story everyone out there is like, what are they even
why
talking
do
about?
I not remember this?
So
None of this
inadvertently,
is surprising.
No.
Wyn's been
No.
on the podcast just
Hilarious.
asking for Jason
Well, you
Jenkins.
should actually have him on.
Oh, we
because
want to. We've talked about it. He'd be fantastic.
He'd be a great guest. But this was the first time I met him, and we had our session set at like noon, and he didn't have any of our phone numbers because this was set up, by other people. So none of us had ever met, and Josh and I are just sitting there like 2.5 hours into, the time we were supposed to start the session, and there's no Wyn.
This is classic Wyn.
And we're like, well, none of us have his information, so we can't even reach out to him and see if he's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was literally walking down the steps to leave. Because we were like, well, this was nice. It was nice meeting you. I think we're probably not going to make it today. It's not going to happen.
So had y'all started writing anything at this point?
No, we were just talking and getting to know each other and just patiently waiting. And I was at the top of the steps getting ready to walk down. And Wyn bursts through the bottom door and starts running up. He's like, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He's like, I lost the hubcap off my car. It was like he woke up late because he worked those nights, and then he lost a hubcap on the side. I mean, it was like all of this stuff, which is all true.
Yeah.
He was not lying. The craziest stuff happens to this
Oh,
this
yeah.
guy.
And that's true. It's always true.
And he's but he's like the sweetest person, and he just has this fun and funny like personality, and he's always like real spunky and upbeat. And he's like, I'm so sorry. Can we still do it? And we're like, well, yeah, sure. So then we sat down, and he just was so stressed. He was so like kind of out of breath and just like all over the place. And I was like, let's breathe. Take a breath. Tell me what's going on. Are you okay? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I feel like you need to talk about whatever's going on. Just like, this is an open room. We're here to listen. Mm-hmm. And so he just talked and talked for like two more hours.
Wow.
Have you ever been to lunch with Shelby?
No, but I'd like to.
He's like, she's a great listener because I talk a lot. Because I am.
We should go to lunch. That'd be fun. But he talked, and while he was talking, most of that time Josh was playing these chords on the piano, and as Wyn was talking, I was just typing, and I had this melody in my head that kept going and going and going, and I just kept typing out things that he was talking about.
Yeah.
And so he finished his venting session, and he was like, okay, well, maybe we should write a song now. And I was like, actually, I think I've got it. And he was like, what? And I was like, we'll see if you like this. It was at least, I had like a little bit of the first verse, and I had a lot of the chorus and melodies and stuff. Like, and obviously, like, things got placed in different places, but I had somewhat of it. Mm-hmm. And I sang it to him, and I had that who I am, and he just like started crying.
Oh.
And he was like, this is it, this is my song, this is it. And so we talked about a lot of really hard things that like he had never told anybody before. He was talking about his life and all of the tough things that he had been through, and we just wrote it into a song. And that's one of my favorite things to do as a songwriter, is help give. A lot of times it's really hard for an artist to say what they're thinking, or to talk about their story, or to put it into words. But I love helping give them that voice. Yeah. And so that day when we finished and he tracked the vocal for it, I mean, we were all in tears. I was like, this is a special one. And it's not always like that. Like I write at least a song a day. And there are some where you're like, this is gonna really be something, and then some where you're like, this could be good, and you just never know. Mm-hmm. This one I was like, this is a special one. I think this could change a lot of lives. And it did. It came out on his EP, his first EP, which it was the title track of the EP. And that particular song didn't really do much, because they had other songs as like the singles. So it sat right around like 100,000 streams for like a few years. And then he went on America's Got Talent, and he told his story about his twin brother that passed, and sang that song. And the song took off after that. And just seeing and reading the comments from people that are like, this inspired me, this is my song. And like, there's schools that, with little kids, like elementary schools, that like have their kids singing this song in their like little programs. I just gotta.
Kids are the only ones that can hit those notes.
That's true.
Except Wyn and a few others.
Even when I sing it live, I have to bring it down. I'm like, geez, I'm like, who wrote this?
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So how did that song then go from like the takeoff of that point, and then Celine picking it up for the documentary?
I have no idea. But
where were you when you got that call too?
I was at home. I was just at home. It was in the morning, and I had gotten an email, but I didn't know I got an email. I got a call from Wyn. Wyn called me, and he was like screaming, and I couldn't understand what he was saying. He was like, he was in a car in London somewhere, like, and he was like, I can't really talk long, but oh my gosh, Celine Dion is singing our song. Wow. I was like, what? he's like, Celine Dion is singing our, oh my gosh, he was like, our idol is singing our song, Vanessa. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, look at your email. And I looked at my email and I had a request for a license for Who I Am in her documentary, which was untitled at the time.
And that's an immediate yes.
And I was like, you could not pay me. And I'd be like, sure,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah.
Take the song.
Well, and the cool
We
part,
also didn't know what it
what it really was.
what it was, where it was going to be, if it was
right.
background music, if it was just playing in the car. Like, we had absolutely no idea.
Until you watched it.
And
You didn't,
to be
until
honest,
you watched the documentary, you still didn't know how
well,
to
yeah,
use
because
it?
that's how and then they clear these things like a year in advance, and so we're like, is this thing even going to come out? And then all of a sudden we saw it all over, like Prime was putting out, Amazon Prime was like putting out all of the the things for it, and I was like, okay, well, I guess it is happening. And then I finally got like the final contract for it, and it said where it was gonna. It didn't say where it was going to be in the documentary, but it set up the scene for us so we knew what it was.
Yeah.
But it was not the right scene. Like, it wasn't, it didn't say the right thing on paper. And so, Wyn invited me to go see it in theaters. And so we had a big group of us and we went to see it in theater, to watch it in theater. And, we watched, I mean, the whole thing, he and I were crying the whole documentary because it's so moving.
Yeah.
And it's so sad
good.
seeing her go through all of this. And she, like, I'm serious, she was my, like, she's my favorite. And
Same.
my very first concert ever when I was 5, that's who I went to see. And I was singing her songs, like, so loudly that my mom was like
you and I in Norway.
exactly. My mom was
Singing
like,
Celine
honey,
Dion songs in the middle of the night.
honey,
Nice.
the people came to hear Celine.
That's so
She's like,
Oh my gosh.
like, take it down a little. And then, like, my aunt took this picture of me in the backseat of her car holding this book of Celine, just like smiling like this.
Yeah.
And
I played out that Falling Into You record like it was nobody's business.
all of them.
I saw her.
All of them.
The only time I've seen her was in Vegas, her final shows of the residency, the original residency in 2019. And I was like 11 weeks pregnant, hanging out in Vegas, my big pregnant belly, and like wept the whole time.
I mean,
It was
her
life-changing.
music is so moving.
Yeah.
And it's changed so many people's lives, and it's definitely changed mine. Like, she's the whole reason I'm even doing what I'm doing today. She was the start of it for me. And so we're sitting in that theater, and we're like, is it not in? Like, we're getting to the end. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is only like an hour and 20 minutes, and we're like, almost there.
Almost
and it
over.
hasn't come on. Like, did we get our hopes up? Is because sometimes that happens. Like,
Yeah,
they
they
say
get
it's going to
cut
be in
out.
it, and then they cut it, and then they don't tell you. It's
Yeah.
like, oh.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and then she has that episode, that seizure, and then right after that, she sings the song after she has the seizure, and they're like, "This is the song that we're gonna end the night with. We end every night with this song." And she's like, "This is the song that got me through, and gets me through the hardest time of my life." And we just go, "Oh my God!" Like, we just,
Wow.
I mean, we were sobbing. Everyone in our row
Yeah.
was sobbing, and just to hear her belt those notes out, it's something I never, ever, ever thought I would ever see or hear in my lifetime, ever. And the thing finished, and our entire row stood up and just started hugging each other, and everyone behind us in the theater was like, "Wow, they really love Celine Dion."
You're like, yes,
And it was a really surreal moment. And even now I think about it, and like,
That's
I
wild.
get like
Yeah.
the chills, and
Oh,
I get
yeah.
so excited because it's, I can't even believe it happened. I can't.
That's
So,
incredible. What a story.
It's wild.
Well,
Such a
and
story.
what an amazing little star and exclamation point into your life and your career. Not there's not going to be plenty more, but like the days that you doubt
Yeah.
if you're doing the right thing, the days that you want to give up, because they happen often. I feel it, you feel it.
Yeah.
We know Carlos does.
Always with the backhanded.
Yeah.
Poor Carlos.
And I
Poor
know
Carlos.
He's just sitting in the
that
closet.
he's not even in a corner. He's
Producing
on the floor in the
on the
closet.
floor.
No, I mean,
Get him a chair.
We do need to get you a chair.
yeah. Well,
Some pillows, at
you know what,
least.
guys.
But no, you're right. It is, and I forget about that a lot.
Totally, because for everyone out there, we all feel and experience and go through the same things. We have our individual dreams and goals and wishes and wants. The reality is, when something like that happens in your life, you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And it's the most beautiful reward you could ever get. You know, it just really is. That's honestly, I know it's really probably hard to even come out of my mouth at times, but like, it's better than $10 million, and it's way more than any Grammy or anything else you could ever get.
Yeah.
Because those are like by your peers, and I get that. I don't have one, I would love one, but that is confirmation you are doing what you're on this planet to do.
Totally.
Yeah.
And to be able to
You're so
impact
right.
that artist that impacted you,
That's
and then
the thing.
everyone else that's going to be impacted
Yeah.
through that, oh my gosh, why
So
else are
Well,
we
and
here?
because she sang that song, and it was at such an incredible like point of the documentary after
Yes.
such struggle.
Yeah.
Sure.
It reached so many more people, and
This
for
is
me,
the song they go out of that theater listening to. It's the one they're
Yeah,
going to plug into
exactly.
their Spotify and go listen to.
and it's not for me in this case, like, and with every song, I mean, and I honestly mean this, it's not, money is awesome. You need it to live. We need it to survive. We need it for peace, to have our peaceful 2025.
Yeah.
But my entire goal in being a songwriter and being an artist is saying something that other people feel. But, like, what am I trying to say? My goal is to let people know that they're not alone in whatever they're feeling. Because I know, I mean, if I felt it, I know somebody else has felt it too.
Yeah.
And so the songs that I write, I really try to pour those emotions, those thoughts, those words into that so that other people know that they're not alone. Right. And this is one of those songs, like, it's been healing for so many people. That's what I've seen in all the comments and all the people that message me and all of that. And she was able to reach that audience that Wyn nor I could reach. And so that means that there's healing on a whole worldly level now through this song. Right. And that is all I could ask for. I mean, even with my artist songs, I've been on tour, and there was a girl in the front row, and I remember seeing her, and I don't know, there's something inside of me that was like just kind of moved. It kept pulling me towards her, and I just paid a little bit extra attention to her. She was like sitting in between these two older people, none of them connected. Like, she was there by herself, and I just sang to her, and I sang, my song to her, and my song was called Hold Me. And it just talks about when you're alone, when you're scared, when you're freaking out, when you're anxious, all of this stuff, like, that, and a lot of people interpret it differently. It could be a love song. It could be the person that, you're in love with that holds you when you need them the most. It could be your mom. It could be your dad. It could be God. Like, and in this case, she interpreted it as God holding her, and she messaged me after the show, and it was in like one of those, the inbox that you don't see.
The hidden messages.
Yeah, it was in like the hidden messages, but I just that I really don't look at that often, but I happened to look at it when I got on the bus, and she was like, "Hi, you're probably never gonna see this, but I just want to let you know that I really appreciate that you saw me tonight." She was like, "I wasn't supposed to be here tonight, and I didn't think I was gonna make it, but you gave me a reason to live. You saved my life tonight with your song." And so I'm like, wow, this is why.
Yeah.
Like, this, all of the accolades, all of the money, it's awesome, and I'm grateful for it. Yeah. But this is why I do this. And if it's only one person that I reach, that my goal is reached. Like, so with who I am, I'm just so grateful I've got to be a part of this song that's changed so many lives, and I have absolutely no idea how Celine heard it. I would love to know.
Let's have Celine on the show.
Yeah, Celine, please.
And
But
Jason and I would
I'm
just
just
sit here
glad
for
she
an
did.
hour
I know, right?
and cry.
Cry. Couldn't talk.
You'll come back when we do that.
Yeah.
You and Wyn.
We'll all be passed out on the floor.
Yeah. Celine will just talk to the camera while we're all passed out, unconscious the whole time.
Yeah.
What are you excited about for your career for 2025? How can we boost you as we land our plane today? What can we look forward to from you this year?
New music.
Yay.
I went through 2023 releasing my artist stuff, and then I took 2024 and I was touring 2023 and releasing artist stuff, and then 2024 I spent in the studio nonstop. And here I didn't travel much, which was nice. I got to really just create a lot.
Yeah.
And I've got a multiple projects, both for like film and TV, and then artist stuff, and then other projects I'm working on with other artists. But my artist stuff, more of that this year. So I'm really excited about that, and just to kind of see where it takes me.
Love it. I feel like I'm inspired. I learned things.
Absolutely.
I just love hearing all the stories. You got a lot of stories.
And
we
been doing
only,
it for a long time.
like, scratched the surface. I feel like we went from like 8 to present day almost.
Layer upon
and I'm
layer.
like, I
There's
need
so
part
many
2.
stories.
You have to come back for part 2 so that we can
I would love that.
dig more into
That'd be amazing.
the journey. But
Well, it's so fun being with you guys and just getting it. I mean, we're just hanging out.
yeah.
We're just having conversations.
That's all we
That's
do.
why we love this.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be kind of self-indulgent that we started a podcast because it's just like fun for us to hang out and talk to people.
Right?
I think
Thank
it's
you so
awesome.
much for being on.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
me. Thank you.
Yeah. Everyone check out our music. We'll have everything posted.
Tagged.
And yeah, excited to see what 25 holds as we hustle.
And
Same with you guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vocal Lab podcast. Ready to join the top ranks of the music industry? Don't forget to follow and subscribe for more first-class conversations that make the extraordinary your new ordinary. Until next time, keep striving for your top note.